He killed 2 white people.
And made a lefty out of another.
You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong.
Welcome to episode 197 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is the brains of the operation, the deer stalker, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hi, Dave. Can you believe we're almost at 200?
I know.
That's a lot. Like 100 seemed like a lot. But 200 seems monumental.
It does, and we're going to have to do something for 200.
I think we have some ideas that we just are not going to share yet because it's a surprise, but... Right.
I mean, it'd be fun. It won't involve having Matt come on with horrible audio.
No? Right?
I think he's got that figured out with the new house. He's got a room he actually go into and record, but when we did 100, it was like, Eric got the audio. It was like, what the hell is this?
Well,
but you actually went out the weekend before Thanksgiving and went quote unquote hunting.
I did. I wore camo.
Yeah, and saw a lot of deer.
I did see a lot of deer, like a couple families worth. They were beautiful, but I didn't shoot them.
Did not shoot them, but you made sure to get the selfie with the camo.
Well, yeah, I tried to get a selfie with the deer in the background, but technology and dusk just isn't ready for that.
You should have had Eric with you as your personal cameraman to document this momentous occasion.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have loved that, just to spend his time
sitting in the cold.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
Yeah, looking at you through a camera lens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds awesome, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how to transition into this one, but we have the Wisconsin Christmas parade tragedy.
It's terrible.
Last week it came. I guess it was during the overnight Saturday, or it was Sunday, wasn't it? It was a week ago yesterday that somebody drove through the Christmas parade.
So before we get into the seriousness of what happened, because it really is terrible, are we going to talk about the fact that we're having Christmas parades before Thanksgiving? Because there were several in Georgia too, which really just grinds my gears. Come on. We have 5 weekends before Christmas after Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah. I was driving to a friend's place in Dallas the weekend before Thanksgiving. And when we got to the city limits of Dallas, Connie goes, it looks like Christmas puked all over Dallas. And this is a full 5 days before Thanksgiving. They already have all their decorations up, all the lights up that the city does.
Yeah. Which that's whatever. If you want to get that stuff done so that you don't, that's one thing. But holding the actual official parades, it's not good juju.
Well, it's one thing to get the stuff on the light poles. It's another to actually light them up. You could have them up and just kind
of... That's true, too.
When Santa comes through the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, it officially opens Christmas season.
Macy's is the ribbon cutter?
Oh, well, that parade is, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he comes right at the end and they say... There's Santa, and then, that's that sort of thing. It was traditionally, we're turning the calendars forward. All right, let's stuff ourselves stupid, watch football, and go shopping the next day.
How old were you when you stopped believing in Santa?
I was having this conversation with my brother. His boys are 8. And another parent told him that this is probably the last year. Mm-hmm. I was fairly young, but I kept my mouth shut because I have a younger brother who's a year and a half younger than I am. So that's basically when I started asking questions. Mom's like, "Well, don't spoil it for your brother."
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, now kids have, such easy access to the internet. Like, we couldn't Google, is Santa real?
Right. Right. You could write letters or whatever, but I'd rather believe in Santa and then, I don't know. At some point with kids in school, it was kind of an odd thing to believe in anyway, where I'm from, being in South Florida. One, there's, a reindeer would die. Sleds don't work too well in Florida. And two, how do you explain, because we had a decent-sized Jewish population, well, he skips all these kids. They must have been bad.
Okay, well,
it
hold
came
on
to your
a second.
house.
You, what do you mean sleds don't work well in Florida? He flies
Well, he's got to land sometime.
on the roof.
Ah.
Dave, come on.
Well, we did have a neighbor one time make up some reindeer crap and comes over, busting in the door. He goes, "You're not going to believe this. That fat SOB let him poop on my carpet." So I'd go over and see that there's a pile of, I don't know what he made it out of, sitting in the floor at the house next door.
Nice. Nice. Well, still tough transition to a tragedy.
Again, yeah, well, ho, ho, ho. As of time of recording, we don't have a lot of information on the motive and all that stuff, but is there anything more? I also don't understand doing a parade Sunday night, but I guess it's the time with the least traffic in this area. But Wisconsin can stay out of the damn news for a little while.
Yeah, I don't know. They're having a tough time. I think a lot of people probably thought, I mean, obviously they made a point to make the headlines about the Christmas parade, but I'm sure there was a lot of speculation initially about what else, like what this could be related to. But, I mean, 5 people were dead as of Monday?
It's something like that. Dozens hurt.
Yeah.
At least one officer discharged a round. I guess they got to a person of interest relatively quickly.
Yeah.
As of
and
time
he was
of
in custody.
Yeah, as of time of recording, we don't know who it is, the background, and all that stuff. I'm sure it will leak out, but it's going to give everybody pause every time they go to one of these things. It's a good idea to keep your head on a swivel anyway, but you think of people getting hurt at a Christmas parade. Think of little kids getting hurt, typically running out to go get candy or whatever's coming off the floats and getting in front of one of these vehicles. Yeah. That you think of tragedies like that, not someone deciding today's the day.
Yeah, and I guess one of the vehicle hit the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, which is all grandmothers from 50 to mid 70s. Like, they are required to be a grandmother. That's the only requirement to be in that parade, and that was what the first, line of, I guess, impact was. It's terrible.
It is. There's something similar happened in Gwinnett 2 weeks ago or something like that. I didn't put it on the outline. There's not enough of the story to even do, but odd that I read about this thing on one of the local pages, that this guy is facing like 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. He was using his vehicle and like hit people in their driveway and stuff like that. And weaponizing vehicles. This and it just kind of came to me that it was a similar idea. Now, we don't know if they've got a person of interest in custody. It wasn't a medical emergency.
No, they would have come out with that pretty quickly, I think, to quell fears, if that's what it was. Right,
and I don't know. We've all seen the video. Anybody who wants to see it, it's available. But we have snippets because, of course, everybody's got, instead of enjoying the parade, everybody's got their smartphones out taping it. But you see this thing just flying through. It made no attempt to veer off. notes, not hitting a horn that, as if it were a mechanical failure or something like that. So it doesn't look good for this being any sort of accidental happening. It doesn't look good at all.
No, it's terrible. But like you said, go ahead.
I was going to say, and if they don't like his motivation, or what they think is his motive, it'll get buried and get released along with other news, like, things going on with the holidays and stuff like that, and try to hide it.
Yeah. It's, Wisconsin's had a tough time.
Yeah. And we recorded about 12 hours, 14, 15 hours before the Rittenhouse verdict came down.
Yeah, it was they didn't consider us at all.
I know. This is not the first time stuff like this has happened.
No, it's not.
We've had it where we record and then like an hour later I'm texting you going, damn it.
Were you surprised?
I won't say I was surprised. But after 26 hours of deliberation over what seemed like, I guess there's 3 days, not a full 3, but it felt like they were trying to find something to hang on them so that they're not targets.
I was surprised, because I was getting concerned after all the time that they were hung and that they were going to have to do it again. I didn't necessarily think it was going to be a guilty verdict. I didn't think they would come to a conclusion, and I don't think anyone wanted to go through that again. The public, the prosecutor, the defense team, the judge, but
well, the judge, I think, really, really held his water well. Because there had to be a point at which this guy sees everything that's going on. It could have declared a mistrial with prejudice. And that would have been it. But he let the process play out.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the defense team is thanking God he didn't at this point. But his, the defense attorney, the main one, Mark Richards, he did a press conference right after the verdict came out, which I'm sure most people have seen at this point. But, and he was, he mentioned that they were, pleased and excited about what had happened, but that it hadn't really sunk in yet, which, that totally makes sense because, how long has it been? 15 months of planning and preparing and dealing with setbacks and just trying to overcome everything. But as he went on and spoke over the weekend, he definitely got more refined in who he was lashing out at, rightfully, and he's just letting people have it. Yeah,
he does not give a single damn.
Well, he said he's been inundated with death threats, and that was just because of the verdict, which is the dumbest thing ever. I mean, so you didn't want to kill him if the jury made a decision that you liked. I mean, people are so stupid, but
it's also why kids need to be reading books like To Kill a Mockingbird. They need to learn that every person is due a vigorous defense. We're moving backwards, where they're going into a trial with a verdict amount of what they want instead of listening to facts.
Well, yes, and I'm not defending people for having bad news sources and not fact checking things themselves and for not watching at least clips of the trial, but we're going to get to it in just a minute, but the information that was peddled out there was incorrect by so many stations. I mean, it wasn't just one, it wasn't just CNN, it wasn't just MSNBC, it wasn't one single pundit. As a media conglomerate, multiple companies were peddling incorrect information about the shootings. And even though
absolutely.
they didn't show the videos, they would show, the clips or a couple a couple seconds of the frames and whatnot, but there's a lot of people who are outraged because they don't know what happened. Like, I don't know how many people are like, his mother needs to be in jail because she drove him across state lines with an AR-15 when, that didn't happen. That's not, but they are still, that's what they think. They think that happened. They think that the possession of the firearm was illegal. They think, Joe Scarborough said that he shot 60 times. And, the whole reason that everyone was out there was because of Jacob Blake. And there are still people who think he's dead and he's alive.
Yeah, it's incredible. The amount of misinformation that even during the trial, we talked about it on one of the earlier shows, where exploding rounds versus Full Metal Jacket and stuff like that. Even the judge was like, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. That's wrong information.
Yeah.
The willful ignorance. And look, these media companies have acted irresponsibly. Whatever happened to the standard of Edward R. Murrow and people like, report the story. This is what happened. Instead, we've got a 24-hour news cycle that have to fill with something. So they get these pundits on that all get the same talking point sheet. It's especially when I liked the Gutfeld show, Greg Gutfeld show. I liked it back when he was doing Red Eye. But every once in a while, he'll take a compilation of 10 different pundits, all using the exact same line. These aren't people thinking independently for themselves.
No, it's not. But, I don't know. I don't know why certain stories get the momentum that they do. It's kind of like when we talked about the Gabby Petito stuff and, why certain cases make the news. There are officer-involved shootings, everywhere, and we see some of them make the news. George Floyd was a little bit different. I think that was a unique circumstance, and
thankfully it is.
Yeah, but I never understand why certain cases make national headlines. Because this one lacked the racial component. I know there are a lot of people who thought that the victims were black. I think there's still some people who think that the victims, the people who were shot, So, but I don't know why the media latches onto certain cases. But the Kyle Rittenhouse case, it's not very often that we see SNL pick up a case and mock it, where we have 24-hour news cycle coverage on something. I don't know. I don't understand why this one was it, other than the fact that it was an AR-15.
Well, that's part of it. His age being part of it. Then they latched onto this idea of him crossing state lines.
Yeah, well, the Second Amendment says the state lines don't matter for shit, but whatever.
Well, but it's like living in Carrollton or living in Columbus and working in Phoenix City. Crossing state lines is just going across the street. Before 9/11, hell, there were people in northern states that would cross an international border, go into Canada to go do stuff and go back and forth with no border checks. It was an open border. But when they latched onto that, they created this narrative that this guy sought out trouble and went out of state to go do this. Never was it reported, except for a couple of news outlets, that his father lived in Kenosha. He spent a lot of time in Kenosha. He worked in Kenosha. That this is a lot of his friends were living there. That Kenosha and whatever city he actually lives in are border towns. People cross over all the time just to go to the grocery store. But yeah, Richards, of course, is furious with MSNBC and CNN. Furious at any congressional member who has offered Rittenhouse a job.
Which is stupid. First of all, the thing that Kyle Rittenhouse needs the most right now is to lay low and to be left alone. And that's going to be difficult for him for a while, and they're offering him a job or an internship or whatever because it's cool, not because, no offense to Kyle Rittenhouse, but not because he's qualified. It's all about, how do you connect that? How does that, what's the point?
Yeah, it'd be a little different if he had been an intern
and lost his job or something. Because
right. And if somebody is out there and offers him a job working at a fire station or, he's still 18 years old. He still needs to go to school and he still needs to figure out his life. And
he needs to be out of the limelight.
Stafford. Well, I think he's going to go Sandman for first and sue these media outlets.
As he should. Before we move on to the media outlets and the response to them, because they're still, the reason I think he should sue them is because they're still doing nonsense. But, talking about the congressional members wanting to do stuff because it's cool or because it looks good or because it's popular. Donald Trump Jr. and the Gun Owners of America tweeted that they were going to give him a new rifle, which I support the Second Amendment without limitation. I support it, but why would you draw attention to this like this? Why would you? It's a reward. Sure, it's a victory that he won because he never should have been charged. But what positive for Rittenhouse or for the organization or for Donald Trump Jr. does saying we're going to give you a new rifle? What does that do? Just do it if you want to, first of all.
This kid may never pick up a rifle again.
Yeah, they said he's in counseling because he's dealing with PTSD and stuff. That's the thing that infuriates me the most about these things is people forget that somebody, this wasn't someone who was trained in law enforcement or in the military, where those people still have a hard time with taking someone's life. They still cope with that in weird ways. But you're talking about someone who was 17 at the time, who was not trained to do this, and who killed 2 people.
And who everybody has made a villain of for, 18 months? Just absolutely made a villain out of him and said he shouldn't have been there. And this all the stuff that we say when we don't blame the victims. We don't victim shame. We don't ask why a woman was jogging late at night through Piedmont Park. We don't do that. We say the person that victimized her was wrong. It's the same thing. He had a same right to be on that street as everybody else. And he's going to end up having to change his name.
Well, and let's not forget about the jackasses who protested this over the last week or so and were out there with rifles themselves. Which if you want to do that, that's fine. It's not my style, but if you want to do that, fine. But why are you showing up to a protest saying you want to protect the protesters and have a presence, but he was not allowed to and no one else is allowed to?
Right. It's absurd. There's no logic to it. And look, the people who are protesting either are fooled into what self-defense actually means, or they're rabble-rousing.
Well, there's a lot of people who are fooled because the media response to this has been, I just kind of thought that they would have I thought Friday would be a day of headlines, commentary into the evening, and I kind of thought that the left media would just drop it because they look so stupid. But they haven't. They're doubling down. The MSNBC host, Tiffany Cross, she called him a little murderous white supremacist the Sunday after the verdict came in. A little murderous white supremacist. He killed 2 white people.
And made a lefty out of another.
Yes.
They stick by this crap.
And then there was an article, there's been so much testimony about his tears and whether it was, or not so much testimony, so much commentary about his tears and whether or not they were real. And there was an article on Bloomberg that said, that the strategy rested on the fact that he offered tear-filled testimony. And even that was the headline. And then you read the article, which was actually surprisingly factual. And it said that, because he said it in the press conference, Mark Richards said that they tested it with juries, and they tested mock juries. And in one jury, he testified, and with another, he didn't. It didn't say anything about tears. I mean, nothing about laying it on and being emotional. It was all about whether or not he should testify. But they have to make the headlines, which most people don't get past, to say that it rested on him being a sobbing mess.
Yeah, look, he's got years of therapy coming up to deal with this. Luckily, I think he'll have the money to pay for it.
Well, they've been aligning. I guess they have been doing this for some time, but they've been aligning Kyle Rittenhouse with far-right extremists and saying that those are the people who are chanting about his acquittal. He was in NPR. There was this big long piece on BuzzFeed where they said that they're warning that this is going to inspire more far-right extremist violence. And here, this just killed me. But the exact excerpt from the article was, the saints of the far right include the Charleston, Christchurch, Poway, Pittsburgh, and El Paso shooters. And now they also include Rittenhouse. The Proud Boys, Boogaloo Boys, subscribers to the QAnon mass delusion, Christian identity fanatics, illegal militant groups, a neo-Nazi party, and acceleration terror groups were among those BuzzFeed News found heaping praise in channels and chats on social messaging apps. First of all, it's baffling to me that self-defense is a partisan issue. Guns, I get, but self-defense, whether or not that is legitimate or not, it blows my mind that it's a political matter.
Everything is political. Everything is. And I don't know what qualifies them to decide what being far right is. And look, we can do the same thing with the protesters. Is they're being applauded by the American Communist Party, this group. Rittenhouse's actions stand on their own. I don't know what his political beliefs are, and at 18, he probably doesn't know what his political beliefs are.
Well, interestingly, I think it was on Sunday, because that Tucker Carlson special aired on Monday, but they did a little teaser, and there was a quote where he said that, race had nothing to do with it, and he actually supported the BLM movement. And he said that, and then Chicago Sun-Times comes out and says that, this was a rare opportunity to send a warning and let people know that associating with Black Lives Matter is dangerous and deadly. And it's still not a safe place for Black Americans, and the ACLU, they said basically that Kyle Rittenhouse got too much protection of his civil liberties during all of this.
The ACLU?
Yeah. The American Civil Liberties Union thinks that someone's rights were too protected. It's baffling.
Yeah, if you take people at their words of what things actually mean, I don't. The case was absolutely baffling. The entire way through, the prosecution pulling a hamstring as they're trying to run with the ball and present their case. The whole thing was amazing, and the process worked the way it should have. Now, I don't know if Rittenhouse. I don't know where the money came from to pay the lawyers.
I believe it was mostly donations.
Yeah, was it the My Pillow guy, or he?
No, he did the bond. I think part of it, but I'm pretty sure that his legal defense fund was, because they talked about that in some capacity about how it allowed them to hire a lot of experts that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think we have more of a classist problem with the justice system than we have a racist problem with the justice system.
Sure.
You get the justice you can afford.
Yes, and specifically with this case, they didn't put the experts up. A lot of them just educated the lawyers and came in and consulted and gave them, for lack of a better word, ammunition to fire away at the, I'm having a hard time with, with all these puns. I was about to say shoot holes in the prosecution's argument, but I mean, they were able to educate, and not that the lawyers don't know everything, but it's a lot easier when you can
speak intelligently.
Yeah, as opposed to putting your finger on the trigger and pointing a gun at the jury and all that kind of stuff.
And talking about exploding ammunition.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But,
it's even if the experts don't testify, they were available to testify because they have to react when the prosecution acts. So if the prosecution brings something up at trial, you need to have an expert in your pocket to go, okay, as a rebuttal witness, I'm going to call this guy who's a professor of ballistics at whatever. Getting back to the crying and the testifying, it was Alan Dershowitz, a retired professor at Harvard Law. Dershowitz is not a right-winger. He tends to be very, very measured, but he is not what you would call a right-winger. Quote, I don't think you can win a case of self-defense like this without looking the jury in the eye and persuading them that you were really scared. It was essential for him to take the stand.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree about trial science with a guy who taught law at Harvard.
Right. But it's just, it doesn't matter. The thing is like, whether let's just say that all the things that have been told to us were, or not us, because I watched the trial, but the things that the media has peddled, other than the 60 times of firing his weapon, if he was possessing the firearm illegally, if he did illegally cross state lines, if he, even if Jacob Blake was dead, even if the rioters were black, it doesn't change the facts of what happened in that moment. I don't, if I pick up a rock and throw it at someone when they're attacking me, that doesn't, I'm just using, just because he had a gun, if it was illegal, and none of those things are true, but if he had the gun illegally, it still wouldn't, he would be charged on that, but it wouldn't make the matter of self-defense completely moot.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Doing something illegal does not entitle somebody else to kill you.
And you don't have to wait until they try.
Well, I'd say getting hit in the head with a skateboard means they were trying to at least cause great bodily harm. Trying to pull your rifle away from you and disarm you.
The people on the left, though, and anyone who is anti-gun, they have this obsession, and they do it in officer-involved shootings, too, but there's this obsession with, you can only use a gun when someone else has a gun. No, I carry a gun so that I am one level up prepared to defend myself and can match someone who has a gun.
This is a great quote. This is, if you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's especially for you, it's an equalizer. So, you're supposed to let me beat on you because, Dave doesn't have a gun.
Yeah. And then I have to wait until it gets serious enough that, I think I'm about to die, so then I can shoot you. And someone was like, well, the laws are, a lot of people said this actually, the laws, self-defense laws are too broad, and we are, they have to be that way because you can't predict what someone will do. you don't know how someone will you can never plan for how somebody might threaten your life. It could be with anything, not just a gun. It's insane to say that they were unarmed, because anything can be used as a weapon. Anything.
Oh, yeah.
And the celebrity response, like, I don't know why they're getting the traction that they are, but I think the most egregious one was Rage Against the Machine. They shared a picture of him of Rittenhouse on the stand crying, and it said, What defines innocence in America? Tamir Rice was executed by police for playing with a toy. Nobody was charged. Ahmaud Arbery went jogging and was murdered in broad daylight. Kyle Rittenhouse armed himself and killed people who were fighting for racial justice. He claimed self-defense. This is the settler logic of America's founding myth. Whiteness must cast itself as the victim in order to justify its violence against those resisting oppression. Welcome to land of the free, home of the brave.
I like Tom Morello, his music.
No.
I hate when he talks about anything besides music. If he's going to talk guitar theory and things like that, I listen to Tom Morello. I like angst makes really good music. So but God, I just, every time he talks, I'm just like, I don't even want to download your music on iTunes, because I don't want even a fraction of a penny out of my pocket going to you, because you're such a jackass. And then we get the Kennedy, Maria Shriver.
She's done.
Oh, yeah. And a bad enough wife that your husband hooks up with the maid.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, it's true. The idea that someone could be out with a semi-automatic weapon, kill people, and walk is stunning. I'm trying to take a beat to digest the Rittenhouse verdict. My son just asked me how it's possible that he didn't get charged for anything. How is it possible? I don't have an answer for him.
And then she said she looks forward to hearing from the jury. This is a moment for them to explain how they came to their decision. I like when jurors talk because I think it's interesting, but jurors don't owe us a thing.
And I thought that was very well explained by the judge. You can say as much or as little as you want. People are not to contact you, and if you're being harassed, you let us know. We'll take care of it. I think it was great. But the Shriver quote, do you know how old her sons are?
No.
24 and 28.
Okay, well, first of all, so this would you're not on, I don't think you're on Instagram, but this would be one of those memes where it's like, I'll take things that your kid didn't actually say for $100. Like, if her kids are 24, they're either stupid or she's making that up. But I'm inclined to think they're stupid because she said they didn't get charged. He was charged with crimes. That's why we had a trial.
They're calling her a journalist. But the baseline is they don't even know the difference between charged and convicted. Also, she's outright lying. I mean, it was said or it was typed in such a way to make an idea that it's some 5-year-old that's sitting next to her on the couch. She said, "Mommy, how can I not put the Batman in jail?" She knows that's the image she's creating. I was curious enough. I'm like, isn't she 60? How old are her kids? I'm like, yeah, 24 and 28. Yeah. Yeah. You just trying to manipulate people's emotions in this sort of time. And who was sitting out there on the fence going, my boy, I don't know whether it was self-defense or not. And like, wait a minute. What did Maria Shriver have to say about it?
She went to Georgetown. She's 66.
Well, with her family name, it's not hard to get into Georgetown.
I'm just saying, you would think she would have picked up a thing or two there.
You'd think being married to a governor you pick up some ideas about how laws are made, and certainly sleeping next to a person, the head of the executive branch for a state larger than most of the countries on Earth, she'd have picked up a thing or two.
Well, and there's still this narrative that this was vigilantism, and that, this unacceptable. And I mean, that's still the narrative that's being peddled. And I did like, is it Trevor Bauer? Is he the pitcher for the Dodgers? I guess he was accused of sexual assault, but he took a shot at the media and he tweeted, "I guess it's important to know all the facts before jumping to conclusions, huh? Apparently not everything written in the media is true." So,
yeah, I mean,
hopefully he didn't sexually assault someone, because I'd like to give him a +1. Just saying.
I'm not making light of sexual assault, but yeah, I hope he didn't.
Yeah. It sounds like that's where this is going, though. I mean, he's obviously disgusted with the media.
I'd like to see when 2022 gets here that we never use the Rittenhouse name again. Let him go and live whatever quiet life he wants to. Our next time we hear from him is next July, when CNN and MSNBC settle with him.
Well, I think that the number of people who protested around the country over the weekend, they got a little wild in Portland, and I think maybe even New York and maybe a couple other places. But I think the number of people that showed up is indicative of the fact that this is probably going to die down. I mean, there were like 75 in Charlotte, 200 in Portland. I think I saw Chicago was the largest, and I think that's because Jesse Jackson marched with them. But like some of the smaller towns had fewer than 100 people, and I say smaller, they're not. San Diego's smaller than, New York and Chicago and stuff. But I just think people are going to be, they're going to let it go, because what is there to say?
Right. As much as I'm harping on the 24-hour news cycle, the good thing about him is something else will happen, and that'll take our attention away. And hopefully by the time he's moving on and all that stuff, he will be a footnote within history. I don't know how he goes to college.
Online.
Yeah, most colleges are liberal breeding pools. What do you do when you show up and you're sitting in a class and they're like, are you Kyle Rittenhouse?
Well, the same day that his verdict came down, there was another Kyle Rittenhouse who was arrested for possessing child porn, which is completely unfortunate and terribly troubling. But, between changing his name and then being other Kyle Rittenhouses, maybe he can find some anonymity somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, and hopefully he does. I mean, he can't even marry out of the name. So but certainly once the civil stuff is taken care of, go ahead and change your name to, go to Kyle Smith or something. That's just my humble advice, is not to go seeking out trouble and do a name change and wait a little while before showing up too many places in public, because people know your face.
Yeah.
Chris Christie had to throw his 2 cents in. I don't disagree with him, but again, just like Shriver, nobody was sitting around going, I wonder what Chris Christie has to say. Blasted prosecutors for bringing charges against Kyle Rittenhouse, claiming they were acting on the whims of the public.
Do you think there's going to be federal charges brought?
I don't think so. Violating the rights would be the only thing they could hit him with.
Or a hate crime.
Be tough. Be real tough. Really tough to get hate crime, because he shot 3 people of his own race.
Sure, but they could, we have so many protected classes. I don't know. I hope not, but the family of the people who were shot have said that they're going to they called for that immediately. Jesse Jackson was in meeting with congressional leaders to talk about it. I mean, it was just
how can I profit off of this? Mm-hmm. I mean, there was even a South Park about Jesse Jackson and making people kiss his butt. I mean, it's one of the people that was in the entourage with MLK, and Jesse Jackson was in the entourage, said that Jesse Jackson is single-handedly killing Martin Luther King's dream. It was Hosea Williams who said that years and years ago.
No doubt.
Actually, being around Thanksgiving is a good, it's a good thing to remember. Remember him and all the great work he did to feed Atlanta's homeless in the holiday season. Ian Omar shared a video to her social media Friday night, that Friday night, claiming there was an entirely different set of rules for white people following the F up Kyle.
She's toxic. She's never said anything that I've ever thought was remotely positive or productive for anyone or the United States generally. I can't. She's trash.
So, as we're going along, we're going to get this in, too, this is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over thegeorgiavirtue.com.
You can always count on me to prompt you, to say something to prompt you to add the disclaimer in.
Yeah.
She's trash.
She's trash. So, a couple lighter stories. Well, one lighter story is last week, Ford released the 2022 Maverick.
It's a terrible name. It's like the John McCain of trucks. No. Sarah Palin, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it is a truck-ish thing. It's smaller than the new Ranger. It's similar to the same body size as the original Ranger as far as width goes, but it's not quite car, not quite truck. Honda had one of those, that kind of stuff. But if you're a cityfied person and occasionally just need to go pick up a couple bags of sod or something like that, I mean, I guess it's fine. What?
No.
No.
It's not a truck. It's not a truck. No.
It does get up to 42 miles per gallon because it's a hybrid.
Compact pickup. That doesn't even, that's not, no. Trucks are vroom, vroom, big, manly. Not no. He's taller than the truck in the picture.
I'm taller than my truck. Not by much. I do have to step on the step rail to get in it.
Yeah, but the top of the truck is next to his shoulder.
Yeah, it's
like a Camry.
It's something that Europeans would consider a truck. They need to go down to the hardware store, pick up some petunias or something. Yeah, this is, to me, it's not a truck, but the base model is in the low $20,000 range. I think it was $21,500 for a base model. Most trucks now, well, of course this is base model, but to go pick up a decent truck now, $80,000. They have $100,000 pickup trucks, which blows me away because I'm old and I still think $100,000 should get you a house.
I mean, my SUV has double the horsepower.
Oh yeah, and towing capacity.
This is it's gonna sound like a Jetta when it's accelerating.
It is available with a supercharger on it. It's got a little i4 engine with a battery with electric motors and whatever.
This is what the guy with the dress from Jeopardy is driving.
Neither man nor woman.
Mm-hmm.
Neither
Don't
truck
buy
nor
this.
car.
Do not buy this. I love Ford. I am a Ford. I was raised on Fords. I love Fords. I've driven a lot of Fords. Don't buy this truck. Let them send a message that this is unacceptable. All we do is freaking take the manliness away from everything. Where are all the men?
We're married.
They don't. No. People, they're not driving these trucks. Like, this is not. This irritates the hell out of me.
It has a tow capacity of like 2,000 pounds. If it's front wheel drive.
It's ugly.
Yeah, it is. And compared to the F-150, with a base tow capacity of 5,000 pounds and high end, depending on the engine and all the other options, around is a little more than 11,000 pounds. I don't know what this solves or for whom it solves anything. Other than it doesn't have enough room to even carry tools for me. Like, I was thinking it could be cool to have something that gets 42 miles a gallon to put on the road for service guys. But other than if you're actually in town, and you already have a Ford Transit that's a city little tiny van that holds more stuff for a service company. Yeah, I don't know what problem this solves.
It's great for towing your Pomeranian around and pulling up to the mall.
The mall.
Well, yeah, I mean, this isn't for a working guy. This is the guy who has to call someone else for everything.
This guy that's got to get help to change his tire. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess there is a market for it then, because I've seen a lot of man buns, or as I call them, douche knots.
Nice. That's just nice.
This week on ESPN Films, SEC Films, they're going to talk about Bobby Hoppy. And what kind of ties us into Georgia, Bobby Hoppy, it was a standout in the late 50s, playing running back, I believe, for Auburn. Won a national championship in 1957. Also in 1957, he shot a moonshiner, or bootlegger, I'm not sure which, and killed him. This hung over his head for a while. Finally, he hired Matlock. He hired Bobby Lee Cook, who died this year in his late 90s, a very distinguished career, but he was the Southern guy that they based Matlock on, and he got, I don't think he got a straight up acquittal. I think he got hung jury. But that's going to be something to, if you like the intersection of kind of sports and history, it should be a pretty cool documentary to check out.
Amen. Sports ball.
Sports ball. Yay, sports ball. Mm-hmm. Well, I've got to cheer for history or something else because my sports ball team just fired their head coach.
Which team is that?
Florida Gators.
Oh, because they suck?
Yeah. Couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. Yeah.
It's tough.
My life will go on.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, as we wind down this Thanksgiving leftovers, you got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Wendy Wine. She's from Michigan. And she was sentenced to prison, I guess, last week. Well, I don't know if she's been sentenced yet, but she was convicted. And so we're waiting on it. She doesn't have a criminal record. But she was charged with solicitation of murder because she tried to have her ex-husband killed. And she used the website rentahitman.com and filled out a service request, asking for someone to take out her ex-husband and gave all the information and whatnot. And she agreed to pay $5,000 for it and gave a $200 down payment. And she's, I guess, shocked that she got caught. But
rentahitman.com.
Yeah. Like, that sounds like something the police would set up to catch people who want to hire a hitman. Like, that doesn't even sound like... That doesn't sound legit to me.
Wow. Renttahitman.com.
It's another reason why women shouldn't hold elected office. They can't even, I mean, really? Like, that's the best you can do?
Findacop.com. Also, if your hitman takes $200 down payment and is only charging you $5,000, not a hitman. I mean, like, oh yeah, I'll take the $200 right now. Oh, okay, there you go. Then they yell like blueberry waffles, and everybody comes in and arrests you.
Which
Good
they did.
Lord. Yeah, I'll make my disappointing Gator season my closing thought. So, thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Jessica Slodgy, the awesome brains of the operations. Eric Huckumby, the man that makes any of this even hardly listenable to.
Listenable?
Listenable. Yes. Last week I came up with taxoline. Now it's listenable.
I liked that.
So, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.